Did you see that? Using video effects, part 2. Now in this next section, I'd like to continue showing you some of the effects that are available for your video. Generate allows you to create patterns, for example here. These can be dialed up and animated, so if you animated this, for example, and had this come like that, and then increase the value, and you can even animate on and off certain patterns. So here, I have a key on bubbles, and I can add another key there, and then have that switch in the next frame, or a couple frames over to plates. And this will animate. And so you can even have those different effects occur just by using this one video effect directly on your video. Checkerboard pattern. You can adjust the size and the width. This could be animated. You could use this to create some kind of interesting transition effect that you would crossfade into. Lens flare creates the effect of a lens flare happening from lighting going directly into the camera. And you can actually adjust the center of the flare and the positioning and the brightness and blow it completely out. By animating this, this allows you to have the effect that as the video was going by, if this was a car driving by, for example, you could set a key here, and then here by the end of the video, have that move over in this direction and have it appear that the car was driving by and was being affected by the light. Lightning. This effect actually can be pinned. You can adjust the amplitude, the start and end points, the positioning there, and you can change the angle of the branches. If we take a look at ramp, ramp applies a gradient. If we keyed this on and off, you can apply. And if you then crossfaded it, this could give you a neat effect prior to beginning your video, for example. And you can also dial up the blending with original. So you can go all the way up to 100. And if you animated this, so here it's at 0, and then here it's at 100, you can give it the illusion that this is actually acting kind of as a transition. And let's take a look now under image control. Image control allows you to affect the black and white color balance. Let's take a look at keying. Keying allows you to do chroma keying or green screen or blue screen and bring in images that way. Let's take a look at noise and grain. Noise and grain allows you to apply effects like, for example, noise. If I draw up the noise, if you wanted something to look like it was being fed through a video monitor or something, and you wanted to apply this kind of noise to it, this gives you that option. You can even affect the kind of noise if you wanted to use black and white as opposed to color. Next, let's take a look at perspective. Perspective effects, such as basic 3D. This allows you to actually adjust the positioning of your video in relation to the camera. So swivel and tilt the distance from the camera. And again, because of the fact that these are all animatable, you can create your own custom transitions. Now let's take a look at stylization. Stylization, by applying stylization to your video, you can actually create effects like this where you're having the entire video look like it was an embossed image. You can adjust the direction that the embossing is happening at and the amount of contrast. Mosaic, by dialing in the number of vertical blocks and horizontal blocks, and you can get various amount if you animated those values. By clicking this on, if you animated those values over time, that would give you a different look. That. Strobe light creates a flashing, an automatic flashing within the video. You can set the duration so that it happens faster or slower, and also how often it flashes. Now let's take a look at transform. Transform allows you to crop sections of the video, so you can actually go in here, and again, these are all animatable, so you could show this happening in the video as it was playing if you animated these values in it. Horizontal hold, horizontal flip, so you can animate the video flipping up and down or not holding horizontally. Again, if you were playing with video that was meant to look like it was being broadcast across something that was like an old television. Transitions allow you to actually create some of these same kind of transitions that we have in the transitions folder, but they work in a slightly different way. So here we have this feeding over from black. If we add another layer, and the feathering allows us to adjust how soft that edge is. And lastly, I'd like to talk about Lumetri looks. Lumetri looks are something that actually used to only be available in Adobe SpeedGrade. They've now been implemented in CC into Premiere. I can double click these and they actually bring up these thumbnails. They apply an overall gradient to the video. So this is bleaching. There's different levels of bleach. Some of the additional effects are giving a certain color cinematic style. Compression of video, day for night, in order to make a scene look like it was in the evening. And sepia, give it an old-timey look. That plus an effect like dust and scratches would give an interesting appearance. Some of the other sections in Lumetri looks include, so here under style, this gives the video a color palette that was typical in the 60s. There's a second one as well. Take the first one off. So the 60s look. There's a 70s as well. Gives the video a 70s feel. A dreamy kind of look, kind of a surreal appearance. There's a second one of that as well. This kind of just whites out and kind of makes everything a little hazy as opposed to a hard color change. And then there's a third dreams, which is kind of a bluish tint to it, as if it was a recollection. This might be something that would be appropriate for a flashback. And lastly, back in the day, which is similar to sepia. Let's say I wanted to apply these effects not just to this one clip, but also to the others. I could apply it individually by going here and then clicking this, and then going here and clicking that, and then going here and clicking this again. And then if I decided I didn't want them anymore, I would have to go back and click this, delete it, go back here, click this, delete it, go back here, click this, delete it. If I wanted to affect everything and only have to do it once, so I might only have to change values once, then what I can do is I can select all of these clips and right mouse click and select nest. And I can give that nested sequence a name, for example, old-timey. And notice that the video now turned green. This lets me know that it is now part of a sequence. It lets me know that it's grouped together. If I highlight it and apply back the day to it, it now affects the entire sequence. But if I double-click the sequence, then double-clicking the sequence allows me to actually step into that sequence and see the individual video clips themselves. So I have access to them again individually. In CS6, most of these video effects are here as well, as far as adjust, blur and sharpen, distort, for example. But you can see here that the Lumetri effects are not listed, and that is because that is something that was new to CC, that they were applied directly in Premiere and not only available in Adobe SpeedGrade. So that kind of does it for video effects. And in the next section, we're going to talk about using audio effects to adjust the audio in our presentation with Did You Hear That? Using audio effects.